right. Okay.
Hey, I'm Cecily Korst. Welcome to the trailer. No, you can't come in. No. No. Did you bring beer?
Well, but also about the journey that people take to get to where they are today.
Tell me about your journey thus far. So tell me about your journey. Thus far. Describe your journey to this point.
The purpose behind the trailer talks is to give people a sense that a journey is not a singular journey.
Hey, it's our year in review. Here are a bunch of random clips in no particular order from 2013.
You should see what happens when we drink.
Right. I know, I'm quite happy.
All right, what were we doing?
I don't know what I'm going to say next, but I'm quite happy.
I don't know what I'm going to ask you next.
I forget where it was. Well, I know. Never mind. That was...
I think maybe, I don't know if you've experienced stuff like this, but because you don't come from a video producer background or you're not a host.
No, I'm an engineer, actually.
Right. So I think when you first start doing this part, and I'll separate this, doing a podcast and being on the internet and talking with people, I think the hardest part of that is getting over being afraid of just being yourself.
So you're like one of the YouTube stars.
I'm in the midst of YouTube stars. I don't know if I'm one of them, but I'm in the constellation of stars as a smaller one probably. But
that it's very important, I think, for this to happen. But they see me as a regular guy. They don't see me as some grand author and oh my gosh, this guy, he's untouchable. I mean, they send me emails and they say, hey, I love your book, and I write back and I say, hey, thank you for reading my book.
And my uncle was working there at the time, and he grabbed me and he pulled me into the background. He's like, he was very mellow. He's like, hey, man, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do in life. And if you're working, and this is not a great, it's interesting advice, but it actually, ever since I've been, I don't have to do that. I don't want to do.
You kind of have to look at everything for inspiration, and there's a lot more downtime in life than you think that you can spend thinking about those things that have inspired you.
The source of creativity often comes from our frustration with something we see an injustice in the world, a difficulty we're having with something that's around us. And so that should incite us to say, I want to change it.
I'm incredibly passionate about people learning how to lead more effectively. Not just other people, but lead the voices in their freaking head, for example. Which is something I've often struggled with. They're talking right now. Just kidding.
You're absolutely right. I mean, we have got to try to help our corporations become much more profitable if they can't help themselves. And it all starts with understanding what your corporation's what is and making sure that the employees that you have in place are doing what it is that they're most just designed to do. Because, again, it just goes back to if you've got somebody in HR that should be in marketing, that's a problem. And you can't combat employee morale when you have people doing tasks that they loathe. I mean, that eats away at an organization like a cancer.
It sure does. We might know something about that.
Just a little bit.
Just a little.
To your point was, it was like, me, myself, and I decided to do this thing.
Right.
And the power that one person has in making a movement, because that's what you've done.
A lot of it is thinking creatively about how to have impact. What is the best way to have impact, and how can we be creative about multiplying and leveraging that impact? And so I think that's what motivates me is this is a niche. There are few others doing it, and we are having and will continue to have massive impact on the world if we can be more and more creative in how we're delivering this.
You have to be very, very careful in business in this day and age, especially in the business I'm in. I think that you have to set the bar so high that it's almost unachievable. And if you're a person that's a follower and you don't really understand how to go out on a limb and make an idea, then probably not a good idea to go into business. It's hard to carve out Me Too businesses. It's hard to carve out a profit in this day and age, as competitive as it is. if you're not willing to just absolutely set the highest standard in the world possible, and then stick by it, and then be willing to be a total loser if it doesn't work out. I mean, failure means nothing to an entrepreneur. He just says, screw it, let's risk it all.
A lot of people, when they're starting to build companies or they're starting to figure out a direction to go in, their excuse is, I don't have money to build it, I don't have money to make it, I don't have money, da 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 da. Mm-hmm. Nobody has the money. Even when you're rich, you don't have, in your mind you don't have the money because your money is being spent elsewhere. But it has never stopped me. It's never stopped my parents. Mm-hmm. I was never told I couldn't do something.
Because everyone's going to tell you different things, and everyone thought I was insane for going in, including my family. Sorry, family, but yes. Mm-hmm. They thought I was insane. Like, why would you sell salt? I'm going to go get salt for $5. And that's true. Mm-hmm. And nobody really got the concept. So if you have a dream and a vision and a passion, don't allow yourself to like not follow that. And then I'd also say don't be afraid to take risks.
It's like golf, right? Like I when I was playing poker, it's high level gaming, and everyone likes golf. So you start to play golf, and I remember somebody told me, and I think it's really true, golf is a very frustrating game, but as long as you hit like one good shot that you can remember till the next round, it really keeps you motivated so you go practice. And with business, I think it's the same thing. In the beginning of a startup, I don't think you have a lot of those moments, but the ones that you do, if you really come out with this sense of almost like goosebumps, so to speak, it drives you to get back and work hard.
It kind of, when you first sit, it's kind of there. It's just like it's kind of, I don't want to say like lifeless, but it's like if you don't do anything, nothing happens with it, right? And at some point, it begins to take on a life of its own, and it really is a very interesting thing. At some point, it's this thing where it just, even if you don't do anything, or even if you actively ignore it, it has become its own entity, if you will, like the band, or like a company you start, or whatever. Like you cannot, it kind of like has that Frankenstein moment where it's like it's alive in a way, and like, and for better or for worse.
You just don't step out in front of an audience and perform an illusion. You have to, first of all, have all the little intricacies of that piece of magic prepared, ready to go. You have to have backup plans, because in show business, as in anything, you never know exactly what could happen or what might be different from what you're expecting. But you also have to understand psychology. You have to understand all the theatrical elements, staging, lighting, movement, choreography. You have to understand entertainment. I mean, at the end of the day, you're not presenting, just demonstrating a piece of equipment or an effect. You are entertaining an audience. So, all of those things are wrapped up into the whole that is a magic presentation. So, all of which I love. I love all of those elements. But I think, the challenging part of being a magician is to master all of those details so that when you're in front of the audience, it looks effortless. And they're not thinking of any of those details. It looks like, like it's just second nature. So we work hard at that. But again, I love it. So it's not, it's a labor of love for me.
So I think when I was starting out, obviously from an entrepreneurial point of view, I was looking up to the kind of Richard Bransons, even Steve Jobs of this world. But actually now I'm much more inspired and engaged with people, my peers, I guess, people who are actually the social innovators, the adventure travelers of this world. So I think, who would I say at the moment I'm following? There's an adventurer called Al Humphreys we were talking about here today, who's even much more so than me. He's just dedicated his life to exploring and trying out adventures, and he does something called micro adventures, because he knows that we can't all go on these epic trips all the time, but he says all of us can go for 1 or 2 days once a month and do something that's completely different and out of our day-to-day sort of existence and have a real adventure, whether it's just 2 miles away from home or going off for he did a walk around the whole of the M25, which is the really boring ring road highway that goes around London, and he wanted to know if he walked within earshot of the M25 all the way around, could he still have an adventure? And of course the stories that came out of it were amazing. So just as much adventure as if you went to the Himalayas, but it was the kind of audacity of finding adventure on your doorstep. So yeah, I'm really inspired by people like Al.
I can divide my life chapters into albums, and occupations. So like my personal life can be divided up into albums, and my professional life can be divided up into different occupations. That's kind of how I look at all the different chapters. But
Wow. So it's viewing your life through music?
completely. I can
Does it
tell
get more
you.
creative than that?
Yeah,
when you saw Jack White for the first time, whether it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 15 years ago, you remember like, oh, he had a red shirt, right? A girl on the drums, they had the same color hair. Like there was a look, and a sound from the get-go that was just like, okay, this guy has thought about how to present this.
Right.
You know.
And it's as much about what you aren't as what you are, you know, so that if you present something that people can in 2 sentences go, yeah, they're the surf band that wears sweaters. These sweaters, I don't know why sweaters is a big thing for
The
them.
letter sweaters.
Yeah, there's something that people can attach to remember you by, because, you know, there's more music out there now than there's ever been, and it's hard to remember who everybody is. You know?
Absolutely.
The thing you have to remember is not the thing of you are not your work. The thing is, your worth is not the same as your work, right? So my work, I put myself into my work, might be terrible. Somebody might hate it. That's fine. But I am not the same thing as people's judgments of my work. And so at the end of the day, if somebody doesn't like my work, fine. I will fight for it. But if they don't like it, I'll align myself with what the organization decides best. I'll bring my best to what I do. And next time it might be my idea. But what I will not do is go hide in a corner and say, okay, fine, just tell me what to do. Because I'm going to wake up 20 years from now regretting every single day of my life and looking back and saying, why was I such a jerk? Why did I do that? I completely abdicated every contribution I could have made. I've squandered my life. Why? Because somebody didn't like my idea. And so I said, well, okay, fine. If you don't recognize how great I am, I'm going to hide by myself. That's a form of ego. And it's one of the single biggest reasons I find that people regret their choices, regret their career. They abdicate their contribution because they're allowing somebody else to control their engagement. And it is misery.
Ugh.
End of rant. Didn't we start off on collaboration? How did I get there? I don't know.
I don't know. I just,
So what are you committed to? Who do you want to be? How do you want to show up? What's important to you? For me, it's love, leadership, authenticity, and courage. Those are my 4 core values. And there's some exercises in the book that help people discover that. But if I can be love, leadership, authenticity, and courage in everything I do, I am living a very powerful life, regardless of any outcome.
If you embrace and say, okay, I was created for a particular purpose, and I'm searching for it, and I'll find more about myself along that path as I go, that's success. That is true success. And every amount of money, friends, influence, peace, health, wellness, all those things are drawn to you when you recognize, hey, I'm truly embracing who I am, where I'm going, where I've been, and just take that and truly embrace that. There is nothing that you can or can't do when you truly embrace the power of who you are as a being.
I just think once you just trust who you are and know where that source of power comes from, you're capable of anything.
This is the best thing ever. I love it. I love it. Seriously, this is so cool. This is so cool.
But it's a 1972 Terry trailer. See, I still can't say it.
A titsy trailer.
It's a titsy trailer. Tits on bacon.
It's tits on bacon. You don't really need them, but they're nice to have.
You know what? That's our next T-shirt.
I let everything that's up here out. It's never good.